access code once they're connected. The access code is 3501008. Press the pound symbol twice, and then press 1 and then 0 to enter the queue to speak for this item, agenda number 4. Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Supervisor Haney, thank you so much for sponsoring this and all of your work on this important ordinance. The floor is yours, Supervisor Haney.
Thank you, Chair Marr, and thank you as well for your partnership on this and for all that you've been doing to make sure that essential workers have access to paid sick leave and other protections during this time. It's really been a pleasure to partner with you on this. Colleagues, for your consideration today is an emergency ordinance for increased employee protections for grocery store, drugstore, restaurant, and on-demand delivery employees. The emergency legislation that we're introducing and hearing is co-sponsored by Supervisors Marr, Peskin, Walton, Ronan, Preston, Fewer, Safai, and Yee, and addresses the needs of this critical group of workers who are not yet receiving the level of employee protections that they need to safely do their jobs during this pandemic. I want to thank City Attorney Lisa Powell, Jim Araby from UFCW Local 5, UFCW Local 648, Rudy Gonzalez and Kim Taviglione at the San Francisco Labor Council, Hung Feng with the Jobs with Justice, and also to the Golden Gate Restaurants Association and the Office of Small Business for reaching out to my office and for making sure that we take into account the needs of small business, restaurants, and grocers. This is a scary, challenging time for all of us, and especially for our frontline workers who are still out there making sure that we all have access to food, medicine, and essential goods. They need to be protected so that they do not get sick or get anyone else sick, and they should never face retaliation for it. Requiring that workers have access to personal protective equipment, no contact delivery, paid time for following health and safety protocols, and no retaliation from employers during COVID-19 crisis is absolutely necessary and essential for us to get through this pandemic. These folks are still out there regularly interacting with others and putting themselves at risk, and they don't have the option of staying home. We have to make sure that these workers and their customers are protected. The legislation strengthens worker protections that are covered by the health officer's orders, and it gives workers additional levels of protection and a mechanism to file a complaint with the Office of Labor Standards and Enforcement. The legislation does 5 things. One, it requires employers to provide workers with personal protective equipment such as gloves, masks, hand sanitizer, soap, and water, or effective disinfectant in the workplace. Additionally, under this emergency ordinance, on-demand delivery service employers must be reimbursed for purchasing the items. Secondly, on-demand delivery service employees must be paid for time spent cleaning vehicles or driving to hand washing facilities during their shift. Third, on-demand delivery platforms must offer drivers and shoppers the option of executing a no-contact delivery at any time during the state of emergency. Fourth, on-demand delivery service employers must keep their employees up to date with the latest social distancing protocols and inform them on how to comply. And fifth, employers cannot discharge or threaten to discharge, demote, suspend any person in retaliation for exercising rights protected under this emergency ordinance. We desperately need emergency legislation because we cannot wait any longer. Ignoring the personal safety of these workers will undoubtedly put the entire public health of our community at risk. We have 3 main amendments for the legislation to consider as well. The first amendment appears on page 4, starting at line 17. This amendment makes it more explicit on what on-demand delivery service means. And in this context, we are saying that it means a third-party online or mobile application or other internet service that offers or arranges for the consumer purchase and same-day or scheduled delivery of food products, medications, or other goods directly from no fewer than 20 restaurants, grocery stores, drugstores, and other essential businesses. Second appears on page 6, section 6, additional work to part-time employees. We have stricken this section out entirely. In doing so, we have addressed the concerns voiced by the Office of Small Business. And please note that in striking section 6, the Office of Small Business, Regina at the Office of Small Business said that we would no longer need to change covered employer to apply only to businesses with 350 employees, and also alleviates the request to change work week hours from 2 hours to 8 hours, which I know she requested in a letter that was sent. The final amendment on page 8, section 8, implementation and enforcement, we've added language which says that an individual may report a potential violation of this emergency ordinance by calling 311. The agency may investigate potential violations and may coordinate investigation by other city officials if appropriate. This reflects the ways that people are able to immediately and easily report health violations and labor violations during this crisis. I know we also have Executive Director Regina Dickandrisi, who's from the Office of Small Business, who is available to make comments about some of these changes that we've made. And again, just want to thank everyone who worked with us on this legislation. It does put in place some critical protections, and I think will protect both workers and their customers.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to say thanks again, Supervisor Haney, for all of your work on this really important measure to ensure that our frontline essential workers have the adequate protections that they need in order to continue to be fulfilling such an important role right now during the shelter-in-place ordinance. And I also really appreciate your work and your staff's work in addressing some concerns that were raised by our small businesses in how this might impact them. And I know, like in my district, I've heard from many of our small businesses, both the small markets as well as the restaurants, that they absolutely want to protect their employees, and they've been asking for help in accessing personal protective equipment. So I appreciate your work and just kind of addressing their concerns and the challenges actually they faced in even accessing PPE to protect their employees. With Ms. Regina Dickandrisi from the Small Business Office, were you going to offer some comments?
Yes, Chair Marr. This is Regina Dickandrisi, Director of the Office of Small Business, and I want to thank Supervisor Haney and all the supervisors that are supporting the legislation and understanding the concerns of our small businesses and making that amendment. One thing I did not highlight in my letter to you, which supports the effort under 4A, is that in my conversation with the local grocers, many have put in place particular protocols for on-demand delivery shoppers in requiring the protective gear. And so they've been having, not always, but many times, having to provide that gear for them to allow them to shop. So this is important because our small businesses should not be subsidizing the paid protective gear for these workers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Dickandrisi. And colleagues, are there any questions or comments before we move to public comment?
I'm pleased to be a co-sponsor.
I just wanted, Chair Marr, because I know that there were a lot of small businesses who had, raised concerns, and some may be calling it for public comment, which is great. But I did just want to underscore that I believe we were able to address most, if not all, of those concerns with these amendments, and I do appreciate the partnership of Regina in making that happen, and also to my Chief of Staff, Abby Rivermonte Mesa, who really worked incredibly hard, especially on these amendments to address these concerns. And as Regina underlined there, Mr. Dickandrisi underlined, there's also a lot of this that will actually help small businesses and protect small businesses are requiring the delivery companies themselves to provide that equipment. And so when people are coming in and out of their stores or their restaurants, that they'll be protected. And so I really do see this as a measure that's intended to support and protect small businesses as well.
Thank you, Supervisor Haney. Why don't we move to public comment? Mr. Clerk, are there any callers on the line?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Koo with the operations staff will check to see if we have any callers in the queue.
Mr. Chair, please allow me a second to start the queue.
You have 11 questions remaining.
First caller, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, this is Colin Fang, Justice San Francisco. Thank you, Supervisor Haney and the co-sponsors, and especially also to Abby, who staffed this legislation. I know these have been incredibly hard work. We're speaking in support of this legislation. The health and safety of grocery, pharmacy, on-demand workers are at stake. These workers are providing essential services, which means that also that their health is essential to us. Not only for the value of the work that they perform that serves the public at this critical time, but also just on principle that workers should be protected not only for the value of the work, but as people. These are folks who are parents, who are partners, who are siblings, who are loved ones, and they deserve to be able to go to work and return at the end of the day healthy and safe to their families. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
You have 12 questions remaining.
Welcome caller, your 2 minutes begins
Good morning,
now.
Chair. Thank you. Good morning, Chair and members. My name is Jackie Graylaw, and I'm here on behalf of the UCW Western States Council. UCW represents 160,000 members in California, 120,000 of which work in the grocery retail industry. First, we would like to thank you for taking bold and decisive action which will protect